Monique, and my article is called Data Dancing, an exploration of the design space for visualization view management for 3D surfaces and spaces. So what is data dancing? Data dancing is a design space for visualization view management. So it presents a framework that identifies important aspects in whole body interactions, displaying 3D surfaces or in 3D spaces, and for the whole body to interact with those spaces or surfaces. The goal is for them to take this experiment and be able to combine it with existing literature in order to set a design dimension, a framework. And they're wanting this to be knowledge that's able to use for other researchers, other data analysts, other designers, that they're able to take this information and create new designs for themselves or whatever they're trying to create. And they're able to do this. From this experiment, they were able to continue and implement 2 hybrid prototypes, which are massive designs implicated to demonstrate the use of design space that forces foot interaction and proxemic interaction, which is basically the space between us and all around us. So their approach, how do they approach this? They first started with the Zwickie's general morphological analysis, which they did 3 steps. They reviewed existing designs and distilled a set of characteristics and dimensions. Then they categorized those existing designs among these dimensions to identify both gaps and common usages. Then they generated a new design through an analytic process of combining and altering design choices. And by doing that, they were able to create 3 main focuses, which were space perception, which you see in the picture here, that involves perspective, proximity, and view movability. Then they had frame of reference, which also includes coordinate system dimension, curvature, orientation, movability. And then they had user interaction, which includes, of course, degree of intent, proxemics, which again is the distance and space all around us and the movement within that, and action and target. And so with that information, they were able to break that down with also combining that with previous work and literature that they've researched. And they were able to create a rough draft of the design space. And so their design space for the experiment consisted of 5 categories. Wall display, which is red, floor display, which is orange, tabletop display, which is green, body fixed display, which is blue, and cockpit display, which is purple. Wall display basically is just seeing things in front of you or on walls or flat surfaces. Floor display is the same, but seeing them on the floor around your feet. Tabletop display is basically seeing them on objects, tabletops at different angles and how you perceive those. Body fixed display is basically visualizations that are fixed from the proportion of your body and they don't move and they go along with your body as well. And then cockpit display, which is just different displays that's kind of everywhere at different angles, and they want to interpret how they're able to view those certain things. And so with their design space, they were able to move forward in their experiment, which they began testing. So the purpose of this experiment is to explore and evaluate how to manage visualization views on 3D surfaces or in 3D spaces. So to achieve that, they were able to design and implement 4 VR prototype systems that encompass the various surface and interactions that we discussed earlier. So the 4 prototype systems that they're referencing to is the wall and tabletop, wall and cockpit, wall and floor, and body fixed and floor. They combined multiple views with each other to see how the user interprets all of those different views, along with foot placement. And so from there, they were able to test that by having a couple of people come in and doing certain they gave them certain tasks to do basically to see how they were to interact within it in different scenarios. And from there, they were able to gather this data, which bases everything off of the combination of the 4 and how it related to or affected the mental, the physical, the temporal, the performance of how you're using it, the effort, even considering the frustration it might bring, or the average of all of these things. And so overall, the wall display and tabletop display prototype was ranked the highest. The body fixed display and the floor display prototype was ranked fourth most often among the four prototypes, as it shows here in the preference ranking. And so this brings us to the hybrid prototypes. From the results that they seen there, they were able to advance onto that information and moving forward, which fall into a lot of things, which is like whether you have one controller or two, whether you have foot interaction or prismic interaction, and they were able to dive deeper into how the movements perceive with the visualizations that they're seeing. And they were able to advance that. So as you see in the pictures and how things are like fixed to place or things are built around your body, um, that kind of feels more like it just makes sense. Everything fits within each other. It's not as if it's just placed there, but it fits designed to you and how you are based off of your height, how things are far away from you and things of that sort. And so they were able to do two prototypes of this. And of course, we have virtual reality to this day. And so some of us probably have the goggles and everything that we're able to see it, but this is something that they're consistently working on to advance to make better. So I'm pretty sure from 5 years from now, the virtual reality is going to be completely crazy in its own self. So basing what I've presented off of the theory that we're working on right now, which is currently the Tough Five Principles, I would say that they kind of did great across the board, in my opinion. There wasn't any like redundancies, there wasn't any like information that just we didn't need. Everything was pretty important, and they made sure to stick to the topic at hand. They didn't add in anything that was not needed, anything that just didn't make sense or just added just extra stuff to the report. I didn't feel like there was anything of that sort. All of their graphs, all of their visualizations, I felt made sense. I could read them myself without having to read details. I understood what they were saying without having to be explained. And so I felt like their use of multifunctional graphical elements and use of small multiples, they did a very good job about. And the mechanisms, process, and dynamics, casualities of the visualizations as well, I feel like they did really well as also. Even in the review, the results graph as shown, I feel like they broke it down pretty well for it to be different graphs, but showing multiple things and they all tied in together. So it just made sense looking at everything. And overall, that was my presentation. I thank you all for listening to me and hope that I can hear some of your questions that I can get to answer. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Here are a few things here. I mean, generally, for shortcoming, there must be some shortcoming of this article. I would like to hear. You don't have to go back. I mean, it's a good thing you kind of related back to what we're doing in class. I like that. Um, they don't all have the thing that I'm kind of what I would like the merit of the work they've done, not the merit of how they presented it in the paper. And I'm not sure, maybe you meant that. I'm not sure which one you meant, but it's not how the paper was written. It's more of how the work they presented. Is it a good work? Do you think it can work using that virtual reality to look at bar charts? Is that a good idea or not? Or something like that. What I'm looking for. It's not necessarily if the paper was written clearly. I guess that is a merit, but I would guess that a lot of these peer-reviewed publications, they get to be clearly written because somebody looks at them and kind of approves them or not. So I'm more interested about the shortcomings of the work that they've done, the research, not of the writing itself, and the merits of the work that they've done, not of the writing itself. I know at the beginning of the class, as we go forward, you'll have a little bit more understanding, so hopefully this is going to get a little bit better. And that's pretty much it. We're about a minute over.